I genuinely think Wild Rift is one of the best mobile games ever made in terms of scale and quality, and I never understood why it only has 4 to 5 stars in the App Store. Then I reached Gold rank, and it became pretty clear. The matchmaking is just icky. So icky. So if you've been playing Ranked in League of Legends Wild Rift, and whether you win or lose seems to be completely out of your control because of the skill gap in opposition and your teammates, you're not the only one. The matchmaking in Wild Rift is absolutely appalling. It is by far the worst I've ever experienced. Now, just a bit of background on how I came to this conclusion, because you might think this is a little bit extreme. Wild Rift was my first mobile MOBA. I played them on console and PC, but this was my first on actual mobile. So I had a bit of a grasp of how to play MOBAs. I was having a really good time with it. It's just a faster, shorter version of League of Legends. I was making my way through PvP, having a lot of fun, trying out champions, losing a lot, admittedly, winning a lot. But I thought, you know, it might be time to give Ranked a go. There is 11 ranks in Ranked mode. You've got Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Emerald, Diamond, Master, Grandmaster, Challenger, and Sovereign. So I happily made my way through Iron, Bronze, and Silver. And yes, most of the players you face are definitely AI bots. So in Gold Ranked, you play Silver, Gold, and Platinum players. Iron and Bronze really aren't really ranked anyway. When I was playing Gold, because I played about 50 to 60 games in PvP, so I had played real players, I was doing pretty well. After about 15 games, I had a 70% win ratio, which is pretty strong since the average is about 50 to 60, right? And I actually got to where I was 1 win away from reaching Platinum rank. And then it happened. And by it, I mean the matchmaking absolutely, without a doubt, shafted me on a level I was not prepared for. I want to show you 2 trend graphs of my performance while playing Wild Rift. Firstly is season 11, so that was when I first started, so going through all the early ranks. It doesn't give you a real idea as to how the matchmaking was affecting my performance because you play against a lot of bots, etc. But my season 4, I started in Gold. So there's about 100 games, and as you can see, there is certain points where there's incredibly steep drop off and constant losses. And I kid you not, when I was 1 win away from Platinum, I actually went on to lose 12 games in a row. And I definitely wasn't getting worse. I was using the same character, playing in the same lane, which was solo. And I was sitting there scratching my head thinking like, why am I losing so many? I haven't got worse. You don't win every game, of course, but to lose that many games, because matchmaking is so bad, it just completely shafted me. And I had essentially 2 periods over the last 100 games where I lost 15 games in a row because of who I was up against. To sort of put these losses in perspective, I was going from reasonably even teams. At this point, I was like around level 30. I was against other players around level 30. When there was someone level 80 in our team, there was someone level 80 to 100 in the other team. It had balanced out, the levels balanced out really well. And all of a sudden it went from that to being where I was against full teams of people over 75 and my team didn't have a higher level than 40. And to be at that level, you know these people have probably played 600 to 1,000 games. Even if they're terrible at the game, that amount of exposure to the game is just experience. So basically I was going against players with thousands of hours combined of experience against our teams of 25. And no shock, we don't win. And it just feels like, why are you getting placed against these players who are clearly better than Gold when you're in Gold? But I found out why. So we need to actually discuss the matchmaking and how it works and how nonsensical it actually is. Wild Rift uses a MMR system in its ranked matchmaking, and it's used to match players of similar skill. So at the end of each match, winners go up based on how hard the match was, and the losers likewise go down. In an even match, players go up and down about the same. Each player's MMR will converge to a value equal to the skill of the players that play just as well as they do. This is why the game will try to matchmake players with and against players with a similar skill level.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
So this basically means, okay, I'm gonna just like shorten this down for you into more of a layman style, because if you're an idiot like me, you need it explained very simply. So if you win a game, you do incredibly well, you'll be matched with teammates who lost their last game. The better you are, the worse your team is, which is just absolutely madness. I feel like if there's an internal matchmaking going on where if someone does really well, you get matched people who do really bad, what's the point of there even being ranks? What's the point of even having gold rank, having platinum, all this stuff, when essentially your rank doesn't really matter? Because if you've done well, you'll go against people who are a higher rank than you, or they are doing well, but your team that you're given will be all people who've just lost games. It's just crazy. I know they want to stop snowballing happening, but essentially if you just move up the ranks, eventually you hit the rank that you should be at, and then you play against people who are in that rank who are all the same skill. So it kind of feels like, well, there's no point having these gold ranks and platinum ranks, because essentially it's nothing to do with skill, it's just how many times you can win. It doesn't really work, and I'm going to explain why. So I mainly play solo. I mainly play the Baron lane, which is a 1v1 lane. So if I do really well, next game I'm going to go against someone who's better than me, and I'm going to have a worse team with me. So if I'm going up against someone with 1,000 hours, 1,000 games more experience than me, just because I had a good game in a team in my previous match, that I'm going to get destroyed. Not always, of course, but I've found that these games that I've lost, my matchmaking has always been incredibly off. I look throughout the whole team, and even though the team's even, I'm against someone who's level 130, which means that I get destroyed, which means that this lane gets lost, and then they just snowball, and then they carry it across. So when you're playing individual lanes, even though it's a team game, you are still being heavily penalized, because it means that for the first 5 to 10 minutes, you are really struggling against someone who is far more experienced and better, even though it's supposed to only be silver, gold and platinum. And you're like sitting there thinking, well, these people who are platinum, there's a big jump between gold and platinum, and I'm sitting there being like, why is this happening? Why am I always a person who's up against someone really high leveled in this game, which is a 5v5? There's a lot of 1v1s going on throughout the whole game. So if you penalize one person, you essentially penalize the whole team, because then the opposition then just snowballs. So you're like, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't work at all for players. When I read the reviews, I was actually in agreement with a lot of them, because it just doesn't seem to work, because the ranking systems are there so you play people of the same standard. Yes, some people will start a new account and fire themselves all the way to Grandmaster or higher, but this matchmaking doesn't stop that at all. It seems like they just want it so that you don't win enough, and then you can't get a true idea of your actual skill in the game. And the fact that it's never been changed, League's been out for such a long time, Wild Rift's been out for a long time, the fact that this is the best matchmaking they can make is abysmal. I do think it's definitely got some sort of monetary reason behind it, because it's clearly not the best way to play ranked, and I think it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. So after loads of games, getting slapped by a lot of people who are way higher level than me, and the fact the game doesn't tell you their rank, I find very interesting. It just tells you their level, unless it does tell you their rank and I'm just an idiot and I just didn't see. The only thing you have to go off is their level. So the chances are, if they're a high level, they are better than a lower level. There's loads of videos on how to move your rank up, and it's all just about getting protection cards, so that when you get penalized heavily through the matchmaking and you get destroyed, you can protect your rank, which just seems ridiculous. And of course, I'm talking at a low level here. I'm on a gold rank. I've played against clearly people, lots of people in platinum, but a lot of people at the higher up level are complaining massively as well. That ain't me, I ain't that good. But I also have found that every now and then you get a silver thrown in, and that's when it's awful. When you get someone who's a silver rank and they're just running around getting slapped like 15 deaths, no kills. It's just really bad. Have you played Wild Rift? Can you relate to this? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching. Peace.